In a world where information seems to travel at the speed of light and traffic at a snail's pace, where the agenda of those at the helm doesn't always reflect the pressures on the streets, where the rubber hits the road, where there's queue of issues needing to be interrogated in the name of speaking truth to power.
Welcome to a place at the table,
where we set the agenda,
table the issues that matter to you,
and invite you to take a seat at the table.
Welcome to a place at the table. However, if you are expecting to be presented with a rose-tinted version of things, you've come to the wrong place. I'll be addressing those of you who want to live to be 90.
Chai. Welcome back, Aisha. We've come to expect nothing less from you. I, too, am speaking on taking ownership for our future. In fact, I'm asking my fellow Africans, who really owns our future?
Interesting, right? That sounds like me. I'd say all of us. I will be advocating for a collective responsibility towards law enforcement.
There you go, Zumah. I look forward to hearing more from you. I, too, am looking at the collective culture, more specifically, how we can reap the benefits of Detty December.
Well, Yinka, they say great minds think alike. I'll be looking at how we can ensure this benefit of Detty December isn't lost before we can cash in on its gains. My focus is on the growing concern of rising disputes by diasporans beyond the party season.
We plan ahead so we are not caught napping. You could say that we are hitting the ground running, but then, what's new? This is for those of you who will live to be 90. My advocacy is to Nigerians that are going to live up to 90 years. If you're 20, you have 70 more years to live as a Nigerian. If you're 30, you have 60 more years to live as a Nigerian. If you're 40, you have 50 more years to live as a Nigerian. If you're 50, you have 40 more years to live as a Nigerian. As for those of you who are 60 and feeling like elder statesmen and women, guess what? You have 30 more years to live as a Nigerian. If you're 70, you still have 20 more years to live as a Nigerian. And for those who are 80, I'm sure by now you have gotten the mathematics. You have 10 more years to live as a Nigerian. What about those who are already 90? It's not a guarantee that Nigeria is done with you. One thing that Nigeria knows how to do very well is deal with people, its own citizens. What then are you doing to ensure that your years as a Nigerian are years spent living and enjoying the basics of life and not just merely surviving? If you think that the current crop of leaders are going to get tired and begin to do good, or you think that they are going to die before you and then the enjoyment will come, think again. They are not going to get tired. And they have already replicated themselves in many forms that are ready to take over and are going to be more vicious. So there's a choice that is before you. And that is for you to put in the work and get a country where you will live and enjoy yourself, not one where you'll be crying and shouting, Nigeria happened to me. There's also the choice, though, where you do nothing and keep enduring the suffering Nigeria offers. Remember, prayers will not be a strategy, as God will not do for you what He has given you the capacity to do for yourself. My people, I understand.
We are merely surviving. I was having a conversation. I mean, Zumah and I, when we're coming to the studio, we always have meaningful conversations. And we're speaking about rising costs of rents, where we both stay. We're speaking of different things and how Nigeria is... You're just paying bills. All you're doing is your money is paying bills. So we have rising costs of rental, food. And then I saw an article somewhere, I think it was Punch, during the week on X that somebody said, or is a doctor said, in the next 20 years, our hospitals will be empty. Because everybody's flying away. And will you blame them? And also, we are so inundated, that's the word, with so much. But our own lives, because you're trying to sort out this, sort out that person, and then by the time you have energy for yourself, you're like, you know what, can I just breathe?
And the thing is that it can get worse.
It is getting
good,
worse.
that's very good.
Inflation is
Whatever
rising
we have
now.
it can get worse.
It is getting worse. So everybody on this table, we know the amount of years we have. So let me just leave it for now.
This highlights the importance of personal responsibility. The question we need to ask ourselves is, what am I doing to make Nigeria better? What am I doing not just to make it better for myself, but also for the people around me? We are so focused on surviving that we don't make long-term planning. We don't try to think about, what is this going, if I keep doing this, what are the consequences in 10 years? What are the consequences in 20 years? And this is even beyond governance. It also reflects shows the way we treat ourselves, even from the choice of food we eat. So I really love your advocacy last week, by the way, because it spoke to that. And also the choice of decisions we make in our working place, in our everyday living, we don't think about the future. And even when we are thinking about the future, we don't think about the collective future. We think about our personal future. It also highlights the importance of demanding better. Like for people like us, we don't have a second passport. You know, we don't have a choice than to make this work.
I love your advocacy, but I'm going to address it from the good side, right? And for me, like I said, the key thing here for me is the fact that all of these experiences that Nigeria put us through makes us different. That's the reason why Nigerians succeed everywhere in the world, because it has hardened us so much that we become so strong, especially when it comes to like trying something. No matter how hard things go, we keep on going because we live in a country where we have to keep on going regardless. We don't have a choice to say, oh, let's just walk away or let's just take a break, right? And so applying that in everything else that we do is the reason why Nigerians succeed everywhere in the world. Now, I'm not justifying the fact that
we are in an abusive relationship. The fact that we're in an abusive relationship.
This year for me, I'm trying to be positive as much as possible. So I'm not justifying the problems and saying, okay, because this actually makes us better humans.
Let's have more problems.
I feel like we've gone through enough and we've learned enough, you know, to be able to say, okay, let's fix. So the thing now is, how do we use this experience, especially people that have gone through it and come out of it, how do we use that experience to make sure that the next generation doesn't go through the same thing? And that's where Zumah point comes into play, which is what role are you playing as an individual? Like, what are you doing with your platform?
We have been playing roles. We have been.
We can't stop.
I'm sure you have.
Everybody, I think everybody at this table has, but we need to keep doing it.
Yes.
Because where we are right now is not like a snap of a finger. It was years of corruption, years of corruption, years of infrastructural, like, how do I put this? Like disruptive design that has kept Nigeria the way it is.
You know, at first, when you said that your advocacy is directed at people who are 90, I just disqualified myself. Just took myself out.
Yes, I think those of you, those who want to be.
Because Nigerians over 80 is just about 2% of our population, very small, you know, subset. And also, I think we're being very generous because our life expectancy is just 57. You know, and that's for women, actually. When men
probably like 45,
much lower than that. So, but you see, there's a part, you know, in the advocacy that I love, and that's actually the last sentence. It says, "Remember, prayer will not be a strategy.
Thank you.
As God would not do for you what He has given you the capacity to do for yourself." The reason I love it is because you didn't put the blame. You didn't outsource the blame either to our former colonial masters, the West. They have their own parts to play, you know, either to the government, to wherever. You address Nigeria.
Yes.
Because whether they are in government or whether they're in private practice or whatever, Nigerians are running Nigeria.
Yes.
Yes.
And we've come to this place where we're good at outsourcing the blame for where we are.
Of our situation.
So as a husband, it's not your fault, it's the wife that is making me to go and
steal at work.
And have only girls. Let's not have that conversation.
You know, at work, it's not you know, it is not me, it's my employer that didn't give me enough money. Okay, government official is stealing. No, it's not me. It's because the people in my community always queue up on
my doorstep.
my doorstep. So Nigerians were good at outsourcing, you know, our problems, blaming the other person. And the easiest person to blame is a celestial body. Either it is the devil or
God that is not doing enough.
Or your village people.
Municipalities or village people. And you see that a lot in everything that we do, even in our movies. And so,
Excuse me. Okay, that's another conversation for another. We didn't go there.
yeah.
Because they play a major role.
Because they play a major role.
We don't have time to think, Abby. Continue.
Exactly.
What has happened this year?
Because by the time you watch some of these movies and then it's witchcraft, you know, look, the problem of Nigeria is Nigeria and Nigerians.
I love it.
And we need to face that. We don't need to say it is prayer altar tomorrow and what God cannot do does not exist kind of situation. No. It is about facing the problem, fixing it, and changing our behaviors to get the Nigeria that we want. Thank you, Aisha.
We pray and we act. We act and we pray. Beyond prayers,
What are you?
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Certainly, Aisha, if we don't plan and act in our best interest, it amounts to a delegation of ownership. Let's not complain when others make us tenants in our own home. Tonight, I want to ask a simple question. As Africans, what do we own? Our music, our stories, our culture, everything we create seems to thrive in a platform we don't control. And it's not just entertainment, from transportation to financial technology. The platform driving our everyday lives are owned by individuals and companies thousands of miles away. How did we get here? Africa doesn't lack talent. It lacks the belief that we can lead. Building something groundbreaking requires more than just vision. It requires resources, time, funding, and space to fail and try again. In Africa, failure isn't seen as a stepping stone. It's seen as the end. Jeff Bezos once said, America's dominance in technology comes from the massive capital available for figuring out what works. This isn't just about business. It's about control. When global companies dominate our markets, they're not just taking profits, they're taking power. Every time we rely on a platform we don't own, we give away something invaluable: our data, our influence, and the ability to shape our own future. We've been conditioned to think small, but then again, when resources are scarce, survival takes priority over invention. So, how do we change this? First, we must demand better support for local innovators. Government and investors need to understand that supporting African businesses isn't charity. It is an investment in a sustainable future. We need funding models that prioritize innovation and give young entrepreneurs the chance to build without the fear of failure. Secondly, and most importantly, we must choose to support African-made products and platforms. Ownership starts with demand. If we don't believe in our own, how do we expect the rest of the world to? Ownership means having the power to decide what our future looks like. Let's stop asking for a seat at someone else's table and start building our own.
So while you were talking, the first thing that came to my mind is, reading and saying how, most times when you read novels, growing up as a child, I read a lot, and you always find parents, either the father, mostly the fathers in garage, working, tinkering on something, either doing a car, the kids are there dismantling things, doing one thing or the other. And I'm thinking, how often do we see that in our own place, where if you spoil a car, they'll beat you, not knowing that you're trying to find out what's going on. And just a quick story, by the way. The other day, one of my nieces locked the parent out of parent control.
Wow.
Took ownership of this computer that they had, threw my brother out, and took control of it. They had to go and ask her, how did she do it? And I said to him, please just register her. For me, I was like, that is amazing. Go and get her. I think she's like 3 or so. Yes.
3 years old?
3 years old.
No.
I think she's 3. Well, that is, I said, please go and get her into that. So you see, that's something, right? Not the one, not ordinarily you'll be beaten.
No,
the normal, so that's one thing.
Witchcraft.
So the other thing that I was thinking about is that we have this extractive mentality where we are ready to quickly get something. There's nothing like delayed gratification, instant gratification. So we want to grab it. Now, we are not used to research. We're not used to development, even our ordinary lives. Did you see the video of the woman of God, let me put that in quotes, that was praying at a naming ceremony and took a pen and put it in the child's hand and said that in Nigeria people use pen to add zeros and steal billions, and may that child grow up to be one of those that will steal billions. You didn't see it? Why am I the only one? So she placed the pen and people were saying amen to that. With that kind of mentality, where are you going to be talking about, developing things that take a lot of time? And then also when you talked about the fact that we should demand of our own, we should buy our own more. We have scarce. When you have scarce resources, you're looking for where you can get the maximum utility. You can get the maximum benefit. So I'm not going to be thinking patriotism that it doesn't even pay at the end of the day. I'm looking for where would I get as much. So that's why all of these imported things. No, it doesn't. So that's why all of these people, imported one, you're going to buy them instead of the more expensive ones that we have here. But I do agree with you. If you don't take control of, the platforms, and others are going to take control of it for us.
Let me say that, you asked a very important question, advocacy. Who owns our future? And I think the suggestions that you gave in terms of, the things that needs to be done, the 2 suggestions is very critical. And we have to understand that as of today, our innovators, even if you have a great idea today of doing something, the platforms to which we host them are not owned by us.
Absolutely said so.
And the reason is because, for instance, you need investment in data centers, large data centers, not these small rooms we call data centers here in Nigeria. We are talking about
need a farm.
Data farms.
Yes.
So that is not something that you do overnight. It has to be invested in. Either government decides to invest in that, or the private sector decides to, invest in that as well. You also need servers, huge, massive servers. You need fast, high-speed networks. And these are the things that we don't have, and that's where infrastructure is very, very, very important. And today, we don't have that infrastructure. So that's why even all our unicorns, not even unicorns, our small startups.
Do we even have unicorns? Like, most of the unicorns are not really owned by Nigerians. Don't really think about it.
That's the thing.
I'm
even saying that the ones that we claim to be our unicorns, not only even those unicorns. I know startups that are not up to that level, that are registered in the US. Because they all know that it's better for them to register their company over there than to register here in Nigeria. And so,
protection.
As long as we have those issues, it's not just Nigeria. I'm talking about
Africa generally.
So our people must understand that we need to put the infrastructure in place. Government must invest in that. If the government doesn't do it, maybe the African Union can put something together to make sure that we have that base to be able to do certain things. And then the second thing for me that is also very important is that we must also invest in a bit of technological espionage. All right? How did China get to where they are today? They basically stole technology secrets from the West, replicated it, made it better and cheaper. So we have to be deliberate and intentional in making sure that if we want to control the future, we have to, I don't want to use the word steal the idea or steal the technology, but we have to find a way of owning even the idea itself, patent it, trademark it as African, and then we own the future from there.
As much as our population is so huge, we are doing very little with it, very little positive thinking with it. I like what you said, which is so true, that when these people come with their platforms, they're not just taking profits, they're taking power, and they're taking data, and data is power. You also spoke about supporting the entrepreneurs. We had a conversation. Now, the entrepreneurs also have to come correct in delivering quality service, and being true to whatever funds are being given to them for them to be able to stand on their own. We have a lot of people who lie about money given to them and they're not doing anything right by it. So it's a give and take. And I really hate the fact that as Africa, we are playing catch up on a lot of levels. We're playing catch up, and that's why we always have this slave mentality round about us. Even in our thinking, when we try to, and we say, oh, maybe it's too much, you know, we're playing catch up and it's not doing us any service at all. I think a lot has been said by Yinka, yourself, and Aisha, so I'll just let Zumah round up. Yeah, I'm sure you're all speaking my mind.
Yeah, regarding startups registering in the US, it's largely to improve investors' confidence and also the general perception around the Nigerian banking and regulatory system. A lot of Africans don't understand that the future we want depends on what we do now. We don't process it that way. We keep praying for a better future. But what are we doing towards achieving a better future? Like you said there are no resources in Africa, right? There is a huge resources gap, funding gap, and you cannot innovate from a position of lack. So as far as we are still getting our resources from the West, they are always going to own our platforms. And also the ability to fail and try again is a luxury a lot of Africans cannot afford. You know, we see a lot of companies close down in the US and then nobody is making noise about it. But one company randomly closed down in Nigeria. It's like, oh, whatever company that raised $3 million, blah, 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 closed down. Yes, it closed down. If you're investing in a startup, you should also be prepared that this is not something that is guaranteed.
Be prepared to fail.
We are testing. We are trying to see if it would work or not. And when we have the funding models, like Kate said, we should be mindful not to sabotage it.
Yes.
We should remember that we are meant to be ambassadors and not close the door to the people coming behind us. That's it for me.
As I've said, survival isn't strategy, but rather invention, problem solving, and implementing the right policies.
The failure to implement a proper policy leads to the sort of tragic loss that I will be addressing next. The tragic loss of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC officials during a recent house raid serves as a heartbreaking reminder of the urgent need for reforms within our law enforcement agencies. This incident involving officers who conducted a 3 a.m. raid in plain clothes and entered through a fence culminated in a tragic misunderstanding. Social media accounts say the suspect mistook them for armed robbers and felt the need to protect himself. This event underscores the need for a more professional, transparent, and humane approach to law enforcement. We must balance prioritizing our officers' safety and upholding every citizen's rights and dignity. We must ensure our law enforcement officials exemplify a high level of professionalism by being identifiable during operations to minimize misunderstandings that could lead to tragic outcomes. Uniforms are an essential part of establishing trust and authority by implementing body cameras for accountability and transparency, as these devices provide an objective record of events, protecting both the officers and the public. By training officers comprehensively on de-escalation techniques, human rights education, and a thorough understanding of legal protocols for entering private properties. By establishing strong independent bodies to investigate complaints against law enforcement officials, ensuring accountability and justice for all. By developing a robust legal framework governing the use of force, search and seizure, and law enforcement operations, clearly outlining proper procedures to follow. And most importantly, we must foster trust and collaboration between law enforcement and the communities they serve through community policing initiatives. Building relationships will enhance public safety and improve the effectiveness of law enforcement efforts. This tragic incident must be a catalyst for immediate action. We owe it to our fallen officers and our communities to demand reforms that ensure law enforcement operates within professionalism, respect, and a commitment to justice. Together, we can create a safer and more just Nigeria for all. May the souls of the departed rest in peace and inspire us to enact the change we urgently need.
I truly hope your advocacy goes to the right ears, because at the foundation of it all is what are the proper protocols to follow when you are about to gain entry into somebody's home, property, or whatever. You've mentioned all the things, body cam, all the tools that are needed to provide evidence, also accountability on both sides. But you see, when this thing came up, I was like, oh, wow, a life has been lost. And I didn't see a lot of sympathy for the EFCC people, because there is no trust. There is no collaboration between them, security agencies, and the people whom they are supposedly supposed to work hand in hand to bring about a safe space for everyone. Young Skills, a musician, he tweeted that he has no pity because they had raided his home unexpectedly, and his child, his wife was carrying the baby, and because of the sudden entry or how they came in, dropped the baby on the floor. So you see, there are experiences that shape the narrative of what people have in their minds, and it behoves on our security agencies to reset and reshape our mindset, because it is a collaboration. We need them to safeguard us, and we also
need to be able to trust them.
Exactly. So that way, it's a win-win situation. That's the much that I can add.
I think I had the personal experience. Was it 2014 or so? So I think they had, because I live in an estate where almost all the houses look alike. So I was at 5 a.m. burst into my house, like 13 police officers. And I was like, what is going on? They literally dressed, because I thought it was armed robbery. I mean, I can't protect myself. So I'm like, okay, what is it? And they're like, oh, I hate to. I'm like, okay, at least it's not armed robbery. Whatever it is, it can be sorted out. Followed them, got to the station, sat there. I was waiting for them to tell me what's going on. They started talking to each other. And they're like, oh,
they got the wrong
house.
What?
Oh, God. I was like,
the trauma.
So I sat down and they're like, oh, sorry, we apologize. We got the wrong house. I'm like, you got the wrong house. First of all, you've come to embarrass me in my estate. That's first. Oh, we'll take you back. I'm like, no.
How do you get back?
The first step is, you see, the way all of you, the 13 of you with 3 cars came to come and carry me. The 13 of you with the 3 cars.
Escort me back to my home.
And then when you get to my house, you go to every house and apologize.
Did they do that?
That was the only way I was living there.
Did they do that?
They did.
Wow.
Have you met Brett?
That's nice. I'm glad they did.
No, because they had to.
Kudos.
Because I made them understand what would happen if they didn't. John, I made them understand what would happen if they didn't.
Oh my God.
And I said, you will take me back to my house. You apologize to everybody, because you can't make my neighbors think that I'm some criminal. Where I work so hard every day. You can't do that. So you take me back, 13 of you will drive me back like that with the convoy that you came to carry me. Then I'll go into my house. Then you now go to the neighbors around that saw you people and tell them that we're sorry. It was even the wrong estate, not even the wrong house.
It was the wrong estate.
The wrong estate entirely. So when you think about this, first of all, there's just this mentality. When Nigerians are in any kind of position of power, any kind, whether a gatesman or any kind of position, they want to press. You know, why would you show up in somebody's house by 3 a.m. without uniform, without any means of identification?
When we know the country we are living
in a very unsafe country, in a very I think during one of the advocacy, I told you guys, I literally have a whole routine of escaping if something weird happened. Like if I hear some kind of stuff, I have a whole movement. Yeah. Because you don't know what's going to happen. Do you understand? We need to make sure that we're able to hold ourselves accountable first. We're human beings first.
No, I think
before becoming a law enforcement agent. We need to understand that.
The first thing, I saw the statement that EFCC put out, and they were like, oh, there's loss of life, and that citizens were not sympathizing with them. And I'm like, they also don't sympathize with people. They've done the same. They've killed citizens before. Law enforcement agents have killed citizens, and they don't give sympathy. So when you don't give sympathy, there's no how you expect,
Yeah.
you know, that sympathy back. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 11th of November 2023 that EFCC put out a statement to say that they're no longer doing their night raids. That
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did.
So what happened?
You will see there.
So what changed?
So that's the question. What changed? And then
Was it legal? Was it even legal?
no, they said it's legal. So that's the first thing we have. Are we even sure it is? Then, but the EFCC has taken ownership of that particular operation. So we can say it's legal. It's sad that, you know, someone has lost his life. But you see tweets of people coming to say that's not his first raid. So
identifying him.
Oh,
Yeah.
he has been there and done this so and so, you know, raid. It's painful when people break into your house. How are you breaking into? It's a trauma. How are you breaking into somebody's house in the middle of the night just like that? And this year, when they come in, we've seen a lot of videos and what they've done. They still.
Yeah.
They go in there, they pack things. There is one of a lady in her bedroom. She has CCTV. The way they broke in there, and then this hefty man, this lady, she's petite. This hefty man was just slapping her, beating her through her on the back, and then they carried her out, and then they started picking things from the... Yes, the videos are out there.
The video is out.
It's out there. So this is something that they do all the time. Live with people with little children. They break into houses, they do also. So how do you expect, you know, sympathy? And there's a tweet someone did in 2021 to say, until someone with a licensed gun, we shoot
just happened,
and kill one of them, these EFCs were coming for a raid, they won't have sense. But you know your advocacy, Zumah. The thing that pains me the most is that nothing will be done. Yeah. In countries where their head correct, may I speak pidgin now because nobody all of us they hear English, where we say their head correct, when things like this happen, it is enough for there to be a reform. And for me, that's always the thing that hurts me the most. That every tragedy we have, we don't learn from it.
Yeah, just go down the
God
rail.
forbid, or inshallah, it won't happen to you. It won't be your portion. The next thing is happening again and again and again.
Yes.
So when are we going to take responsibility?
And when you look at what is going on here as well with this EFCC thing, it's a vile event. It's pitiable, and I can't imagine what the family of the guy is feeling.
Yes.
But they must understand that the reason why the response is not with this sense of sympathy, but that, who cares? It's because the people themselves, the EFCC, the police, the authorities themselves, they have not wrapped themselves in very good clothes. So they have to go back and say, is this a teachable moment?
Yes.
And that's what Aisha is trying to say, that we must look back and say, okay, it's a tragic event, but did we do something to cause it to happen? What must we learn from it to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself again?
Tragedy is a wake-up call for the living to make the necessary changes to ensure that history doesn't keep repeating itself. You're right,
Zumah, there is prevention and there is cure, but there's also an opportunity for us to tap into what is presented for us. Last year, I did an advocacy titled The Glam Economy, an opportunity untapped. I highlighted the impact seasonal festivals can have on our tourism industry and Nigeria's GDP. In December 2024, we saw the possibilities of what I was talking about, if only we can be intentional. According to a survey done by MO Africa Company, Nigeria, Lagos in particular, welcomed 1.2 million tourists in December 2024. Over 500,000 inbound passengers were cleared between November 19th and December 26th. 90% of them were IJGBs. Oh, sorry, I meant diasporas, visiting from the US, Canada, UK, Italy, and South Africa. Detty December generated 54 billion naira revenue from hotel bookings alone, with food and beverage revenue estimated at 13 billion. Short-let bookings were estimated at about 21 billion, with over 5,900 apartments booked, with average rates of 120,000 per night. Nightclubs were also estimated to have generated 6.8 billion naira, while other recreation activities like beaches, resorts, boat rentals, etc., were said to have generated 24.5 billion. 100 event centers earned 1.2 billion in bookings, while car rentals grossed over 1.5 billion. According to Fashola, diaspora remittances during the Detty December season contributed 4% to Nigeria's GDP. That's a whole lot. Add to that the positive image given to Nigeria as a destination of choice for maximum enjoyment. It was a net positive for Nigeria. The question then is, how can we harness this opportunity to benefit everybody? One, we need well-equipped event centers with adequate parking spaces. Number two, we must make sure other parts of Nigeria experience Detty December as well to facilitate cultural exchanges and not just Lagos. Tour packages can be organized to UNESCO heritage sites like the Oshogbo Sacred Grove, the Suko Cultural Landscape, and the Gaskaya Kumti National Park in Taraba. Number three, the federal government and subnationals must create intra- and intercity infrastructure to support this. Our all-year summer weather offers the opportunity to promote tourism-boosting events virtually every month of the year. Imagine the Doba in January, Agungu Festival in March, Eyo Festival in May, Uju Dioba in June, and the New Yam Festival in August. The possibilities are endless. It's time to clean up our art and prepare to Detty December again.
We have literally, and I'm talking about Nigeria and Nigerians, 10 months to prepare for the next onslaught of IJGBs. Yes. We should look at it holistically. We shouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction to this. We have seen the potential. I mean, there have been Detty December, but this last year on was like an onslaught. Good for us. I'm very happy. It has added to our GDP and all of that. But are we going to learn, again, from this experience and be better prepared? Like you said, it shouldn't be only Lagos. It should be all parts of the country because people will want to go and see what's going there. So aviation should be very, very prepared with their flights and all that, not cancellations. There were a lot of cancellations. I mean, I traveled to Calabar on the 22nd. I tell you, the airport was literally bursting at the seams. As soon as I walked into the departure lounge, from there, the queues were endless. You know, and then, of course, flight cancellations, this one and that one. I mean, we took off on time, but it wasn't enough. Then also we should look at the waterways, if we can, to as many destinations close by to Lagos, which is like where the international airports are, and other river states. If we have flights flying to Lagos, that's okay, but they should be able to go to other places. Road, we need to sort out our road. It's so important. Rail, you know, we have everything. If we can just harness it, the experience can be truly wholesome for everyone coming in for a Detty December.
It was actually fun, and of course, this is not the first time, like you rightly said, but this December, you know, it's becoming something. Lagos is now the destination for people to be at in December. And we've spoken about the potentials we have as a tourist destination. Nigeria has a lot.
Yes.
We have everything. Imagine the insecurity is taken care of, what we can do. You're talking about desert safari. I think it's in Taraba. There's one place they always show you think you're in Dubai, literally. And so imagine what we could do with all of those things. Even the coastal road, the coastal roads, I think we have like 700 kilometers or whatever it is. The beachfront properties that they always talk about, people want to be. That's what other countries, they're yearning for, these things that God has already given us. But we are busy in churches and mosques praying for God to solve. When we have so much, you know, that needs to be done. And I think, but most importantly also, is that enabling environment to be given for businesses to thrive. And the landmark event center comes to mind. If you're asking people to invest, people have to think about this thing. This is something that a lot of people were coming to. I met people, you know, out of Nigeria, talking to them about the landmark event center and the demolition. They were literally crying
That
because
place
they
was
have been
beautiful.
there.
I have been there.
I've never been there.
It's beautiful. It was
You know, the way they were
beautiful.
talking about it. So all of these things are things that we stop one from wanting to investigate because you have a situation where there's no rule of law.
Sure.
Government can just wake up and destroy your investment worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How do you then bring people in? But like you said, it's an opportunity that we need to focus on. If we take our minds away from the extractive mindset where it's oil, there's so much Nigeria has and that we can get from this whole tourism.
I was part of the Detty December. I was in Lagos during Detty December, so I know the vibes.
Are you
right?
Why are you smiling?
Are you counting some memories?
That was different. I mean,
It was dirty.
No, this one was dirty. You know, it wasn't. I mean, I think I was going to Cocoa Beach, and then we were trying to wait for the boat to come, and this girl just passed out, but she just dropped.
No.
And I was like,
Too much.
and then so we took her. She was like, it has never happened before. I'm like, when was the last time you slept?
Sleep is was a suggestion in December, and it was like that for everybody.
Not me.
Back to back.
Not me. Mine was a clean
It
December.
was great. Now, just on the point of how do we leverage on this, right? Like you said, the first thing is we need to make sure that other states, because there's a lot of potential. What do you call it, Calabar, Edo. There's a lot of potential. Kano, for example, Kaduna. There's a lot of potential, but these state governors are not really focusing on that, possibilities. So other states need to learn from that, because people wanted to go to other places, but they don't know. This is why Lagos is so popular, because you have Whiskey, you have Davido, you have all of these our artists, and they feel like if we come here, we can see them one-on-one. Because when they perform in London, you can't get close, except you have a lot of money. But when they are here, you can interact with them. They go to Obi's house. They are performing. I mean, this girl was here, the water girl.
Tyler
was here. Everybody was just having a good time. So they want to experience that in person. That's why they come to Lagos. How do we make sure that we're able to break it all over?
Disseminate. Let it filter out to other states.
Global citizen. Also creating infrastructure that supports international and global events.
Yep.
So if we're open to things like this, right? We can not just equip our young people with the skills to be able to accommodate, because it's one thing to create infrastructure, but do we have the skills to be able to give quality service to the people that come into the space, right? So if we're able to embrace more of this, more leaders see the potential in these things and are able to create policies that will support this kind of project, it makes everything work for us.
For the first time ever, I spent all of December in Lagos, and I would like to say it was worth it. Like, it was very late. Very dirty. Every day.
When I watching Zumah story on Instagram, I thought mine was dirty. I was dirty.
Every day you have like 4 or 5 invitations. Like, where do I even want to go today? Day and night. But yeah, it was it was one.
I mean, you're going home by 7 a.m. in the morning. It's 7 a.m. 8 a.m. in the morning.
And then there's brunch by 12.
And there's brunch by 12.
And then you just have to,
It was lit.
participate in all of those things.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that we are now capturing data. Considering we don't have data from the previous years to compare to what has changed, what are the variables, what is different. Because I can remember a few years ago, it was Accra, the year of no return. That was the December destination for a lot of people. But I'm glad that Nigeria has significantly opened up, because Accra was also failed. Everyone was saying, no, Accra was fully packed. You guys should stop coming. Even Bright was meant to be in Accra, but,
But I'm still going to Accra.
I feel like the Lagos state government, they are more aware of the possibilities for the amount of revenue, the kind of revenue they can generate from the Detty December events, and they are putting plans in motion.
Good.
They are trying to be more intentional to ensure a more enjoyable experience for next year. There's been a lot of such suggestions on social media, stakeholder workshops and all of that. But beyond the Lagos state government, the Minister for Tourism needs to take ownership of this and aggregate the possible tourist destinations all over the country and create like a form of synergy. You can create an experience. You can say, okay, tourist packages coming on the 15th, you start from Port Harcourt, and then you go to this, you go to this, you go to that, and then you round it up in Lagos, something that it will be worth looking forward to.
But do they get the funding, though? That ministry, do they actually get funding?
Oh, yes, there is a funding.
There's a federal funding.
There is a federal funding for them.
I'm not
and
sure
beyond that,
it's enough.
It's enough, yeah.
Yeah, beyond that, they can get private sector players. Because the numbers look good from an external perspective. And I think the numbers can be greater. They can be a consortium, to make these things happen. Anyway, looking forward to Detty December 2025.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So opportunities are seasonal, and like the seasons, they come and they go. Let it not be said that we fail to act in due season. Kate.
Well, we're certainly on the same page, Yinka. Acting in due season speaks to a readiness to be proactive and not merely reactive. The annual influx of Nigerian diaspora returnees, colloquially known as IJGBs, has become a prominent feature of the Nigerian holiday season, especially during the festive Detty December period. Many IJGBs return home to reconnect with family, friends, and their roots, often splurging on high-end experiences, luxury goods, and the vibrant social scene that the festive season offers. However, a troubling trend has emerged in the aftermath of this period. A rising number of IJGBs are initiating disputes over transactions made during their time in Nigeria. These disputes often involve complaints about businesses, particularly in sectors like hospitality, retail, and online services. Some returnees claim that they were charged inflated prices, provided subpar services, or were subjected to fraudulent practices. In certain cases, financial institutions and payment platforms are also seeing an uptick in chargebacks and reversal requests related to purchases made by IJGBs during their stay. The surge in these disputes can be attributed to several factors. One key reason is that maybe many IJGBs, having lived abroad for an extended period, may be unfamiliar with local business practices, pricing structures, and consumer rights in Nigeria. This disconnect can lead to misunderstandings about what constitutes fair pricing and acceptable service quality. Additionally, the rise of digital payments has made it easier for consumers to initiate disputes, often through online platforms or mobile banking apps, where chargebacks and transaction reversals can be processed swiftly. While these measures are meant to protect consumers, some businesses are finding themselves at the receiving end of unwarranted claims, especially during peak seasons like Detty December. This trend has caused some concern within the Nigerian business community. Business owners and service providers are increasingly wary of the potential for fraud or overzealous disputes. To mitigate this, there is a growing emphasis on transparency, clearer communication, and educating both businesses and consumers about their rights and responsibilities in financial transactions. As the holiday season continues to draw more IJGBs home, addressing these challenges will be key to ensuring smooth and fair interactions between businesses and their customers.
Very good advocacy, and I think you brought up a very good point in terms of the challenges that a lot of people face in terms of when you do businesses. I don't know why you targeted IJGBs, because Nigerians also face the same thing. Maybe because there was a spike, you know, during the season.
And I was in sync with you. Let's go.
You know, so but I think it's a good thing, and the reason why I think is that it casts your mind back to the change of currency. You know, what we faced at that time when a lot of banks couldn't handle the volume of online transactions. It was at that time it was a bad thing, but we learned from that experience. And then what happened after was that the system became more robust. We got new players in, and they provided more robust services, and everybody, you know, improved. And I think that this will be also an example of that. I actually had a recent experience with one of our local banks, where, you know, my card got compromised and they wiped off everything. They quite literally wiped up everything. You know, and I was there in my house, and I was just seeing the debits. Yeah. And that thing...
It happened to me, but I'll let you finish.
That thing has, you know, if you've never experienced it before, you can actually have an emotional breakdown, you know, a mental breakdown. Like just seeing the alert like that, just going. And what I did was, I contacted my bank immediately through their online platforms, They wrote back to me immediately to say, okay, we are this, we blocked your account, and then sent me a form, do a request for a chargeback. And then they got back to me to say, okay, it would take us about 45 days to sort this out, because they were international transactions, they were not local transactions. And all that. And exactly 45 days later, or just maybe like 46 days or thereabout, I got all the money back, everything. So, and the lesson there is that the system works, really. Sometimes people need to be patient.
Looking at hearing you and your advocacy, it was a bit mild, and the angle you came from, okay, normal, this thing, but there is some sort of criminality going on.
Absolutely.
Because these IJGBs are going after and enjoying. Some of them have realized that they
I just said, like you said, some people are claiming that these transactions are legit and that the IJGBs and the financial institutions in their own country are too quick to reverse the transactions.
So that's why I said in your advocacy was a bit. So what this is from some of this thing that we've seen on is the fact, when you say it's dirty. When dirty is happening, you are in the mood, and then you are spending on anything. They bring drink, you too want to feel among, and you spend so much money. I saw someone who said, oh, he spent 7,000, is it pounds, that he had worked so hard for. So what is happening, we have a lot of that happening, is that some of them are claiming services that they've enjoyed, goods that they've collected. They're not claiming that, oh, no, there was one thing or the other and getting charged back. So businesses are being defrauded. What's happening? Because there were some who, there's been, some of them have put out what they've gone through and what they have had to do. Like some had to put in the pictures that they were saying, ensure that they sign. Because some of them are saying they're being charged without them knowing, or the goods that they collected. Some of them are giving the review where they accepted the goods. They said everything was okay. And then you now get to where you are because you spent so much money, your eyes are clear. And then you're not charging, which is crazy. We have a lot of that happening. Yes, there are some genuine cases where people need their money, but a lot of them, it's almost as if it's fraud. It's quite fraudulent, and they're thinking of defrauding businesses that are already going through so much in this current Nigeria.
Someone on social media said that I just go to the airport and remember that they have to pay January rent. So they started initiating the chargeback request. Because why are we so dishonest? And based on the conversation, you can see this is largely from hospitality and fashion businesses. You will order dresses, you will take Instagram reels, you do all sorts with them, you now get back to where you are and start saying, requesting for a chargeback. It's ridiculous. And then the fact that most of these chargebacks comes with a $15 penalty for the erring businesses. So they are not just losing the money that...
But they're having to pay also on top of that.
But they are also having to pay on top of it, which makes it crazier. I think there is an opportunity for the financial services player to, solve this problem. We could have preloaded cards, Naira cards. You're coming at the airport, you can buy a preloaded card, put a limit of 500,000, buy a preloaded card, and then you can do whatever the remainder you want to do with it.
Great idea.
And everybody is happy. Nobody is feeling like I'm being cheated.
I think, like Zumah said, they're taking advantage of the system because they know that their system works.
Yes.
Because you get carried away. When you start spending, you get carried away. And because they charge their credit card, they might not even know how much they've spent until they get back home and they see that I spent like 7 months' money in one night. Right, and then you're like, the first thing is instinct. What do I do? Okay, how can I get at least some back? These guys will literally say they lost their credit card and somebody's charging their credit, somebody's using their credit card somewhere, and it's not the case, and then the banks are paying them back. So I feel like as much as there are certain situations that might be true, which is very little, because we Nigerians, we live here, we don't face those kind of things. Do you understand? Why is that it's just them, and then when they come and they go, it shows that there's more lies than truth in this situation. And like you said, the banks, the small businesses mostly have to protect themselves. So even if it's a case of you making sure there are CCTV cameras, the guy's ordering, don't put it out. But when the case comes and the guy says, oh, this, just go and carry the video and send
evidence.
Evidence there. He was popping, he was saying bring 17 more bottles. It's there.
So
right?
just
so
before I round up, the incident that happened to you, I was on my bed and then I was just seeing charges. I just stood up. I'm like, Jesus, what's going on? What's going on? But my bank I won't mention your name, but you guys know yourselves. All they needed when I went to report was bring your passport for us to make sure that you didn't travel out of the country. And they did their checks, and I got everything refunded. Very, very, very important to me. So I agree with you. Our financial institutions need to do better. Small businesses, big businesses, please find a way to protect yourselves. It's so important. You cannot come and eat. Then after you say that you didn't eat, then oil in your mouth. Being proactive takes a certain visionary outlook. We have all endeavored to point to the way forward during today's discussions. Where we go from here lies with you, with all of us here on the table. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you being with us again. Same time, same channel next week. Till then, it's goodbye from all of us and the Prisa people.
Yes. Not dirty goodbye.
The pretty people are not on the table.